Hi, guys. Hello,
Hi.
hello. Happy Sunday. Ellen, I want to see you come to one of my Fitme in the Park classes sometime soon. And you're muted.
I said, yes, I definitely want to go. So please keep me in the loop and keep texting me. I will make it to one.
I will. I definitely will. You can bring Victor too. Guys are allowed. So tell him he can come get his butt kicked and it won't hurt his shoulder.
Perfect. I will do that.
Hi, guys. Good to see everybody's faces. I have been food prepping and dealing with my plants. So trying to do the two things I like to do on Sundays and going back and forth. So I've had to wash my hands like way too much because I'll like wait while something's cooking. I go out and I work on some plants and then I come in and I have to like wash my hands again and wash my hands again and wash my hands again. But it's actually a good back and forth. So it's good to see everybody. We are going to dive right in. Quick reminder that the registration for Maryland event in particular closes soon. So if you plan to attend the Maryland Fitme event, then you've got to register soon, or let us know that you plan to register so we can at least plan for that. If you are like waiting for something and you just want us to know you are going to register, let us know so that we can plan for it. So Maryland registration closes really soon. Washington registration will but we would love to have you come. So last week's Sunday call, I really went over all the things that you're going to experience at the Fitme events. And so it is going to equip you with some really incredible tools for the next year, or maybe forever, honestly. And so if you are like, I want to go, but I've got some obstacles or a challenge, talk to us about it so we can help you with those and figure out how we can get you there. If you want to go, we want to figure out how we can get you there. So you have two to choose from: Maryland, which is in September, and Washington, which is in October. But especially that Maryland one, register soon if you plan to be there. And I think that's my only announcement. So we're going to dive right in. We've kind of been getting really practical lately, and I've been loving it. Like, we talked really practically about food prep a couple weeks ago. Last week we talked about vegetables, and I have never been as inspired by vegetables as like seeing Janet's haul. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that in the Facebook group, like all the stuff she pulled out of her garden and shared on there, but there's been so many good vegetable shares and recipes, and that whole like zucchini fritter thing, I'm going to try it. So a couple people tried it this week. But that was us brainstorming together last week. How do we get more vegetables? This week, I wanted to hit another one of our, like, what is kind of we take for granted as a basic concept, but we talk about it every day on the Fitme plate, which is fats. And I wanted to really break down fats for you so that you have some more information on fats, because we talk about, well, add a protein, a half a plate of veggies, a quality carb from the ground, and a healthy fat. But I want to give you more details. Which healthy fats should we pick? And like, what's the deal with the fats? So bear with me a little bit, because I think this information will be helpful. And then we're going to brainstorm at the end, again, making it really practical, so that you have ideas of how to incorporate healthy fats, and you have some places where you know that these are the ones that I want to keep to a minimum, or rarely have. So back when I was doing, before we started Fitme, and I was doing primarily macro coaching, like there was a pretty standard way to calculate how much fat women should have in their diet. Now it varies, but there was a pretty general starting point for most women, which was 30% of your total calories. So sometimes people would need more, like for example, people who were in more of like a restorative season, like maybe recovering from an injury or who have particular hormone stuff going on. Sometimes people would need less, like if they're like more of like the athlete, kind of more competitive, so that fat number would come down because the carb number would go up. But just as a general starting point average, most women we would set at 30% of your total calories. So let me break that down, what that might mean. So for example, if you're somebody who has a 2000 calorie diet, let's say you're having 2000 calories, then 30% of that would be 65 grams of fat. So of all the food you eat all day, 65 grams of it will come from fat sources. Now, we don't primarily use macros in Fitme. A handful of people use it as a tracking tool because it's like a really good tool. But a lot of us are just thinking, okay, well, I want a serving of fat, or where is fat in my diet? So if you're not using tracking as a tool, then you may not know. So I thought I'd give you some examples of what that would look like. So if we're talking about, and again, this is like kind of a broad average, 65 grams of fat, 1 tablespoon of olive oil is 14 grams. So just 1 tablespoon, that's 14 grams of fat. 1 tablespoon of butter is 11 grams of fat. Tostitos tortilla chips are approximately 1 gram of fat per chip. So those big tortilla chips, I pulled up the nutrition facts on it, and it said that 1 serving was 7 grams of fat and 1 serving was 7 chips. So that kind of blew my mind, actually. 20 almonds, so count out 20 almonds, is 14 grams of fat. Nicole says she loves those chips. Yeah, I think we all love those chips. That's why I looked them up. I love them too. So 20 almonds is 14 grams of fat. And then this one's the killer. This like broke my heart a little bit inside. 3 tablespoons of trail mix, like the peanut M&M trail party trail mix that's out. 3 tablespoons of it is 9 grams of fat. Which I never eat 3 tablespoons of trail mix in my life. Like I eat buckets of trail mix if it's out. So the reason I share that with you is because it's easy to see how we could overdo it on fat with the sort of more snack type foods, right? If we're talking about cooking in our Fitme plate, you would have to kind of, it takes more effort, right? Like if you set up your plate and you were like, let me put a serving of fat on here, and you were to choose olive oil and do a tablespoon, you're not going to be like, let me put 4 tablespoons of olive oil. I mean, it wouldn't even taste good. You'd be like, what is going on here, right? But I could easily eat 28 Tostitos chips, like without any problem chatting with friends. So in the context of creating Fitme plates and thinking about a serving size, it's pretty safe to say that like if you have a good idea of the serving that you're adding, you're in kind of safe territory, because we're not overdoing how much fat we're getting. So what does it matter, right? Like who cares if you eat more fat than the other things? Well, for one, and again, this is just more useful information for you, fat has more calories per gram than carbs and protein. So what fat is 9 grams and carbs and protein is 4. So what that means is like you can eat this much protein and this much fat and it's the same amount of calories. That's what that means. So it is easy to overdo your calories. So say, for example, you're like, I am feeling like I'm doing things pretty solid. Like I am making Fitme plates, you know, nuts throughout the day and, I am doing all the things, it is easy to see if you are regularly including like nuts as a snack, how you might actually have an extra 300 to 500 calories in your day that you're not even paying attention to, because it's so easy to eat like the fat sources and get quite a lot of extra calories. And again, it's not that it's bad. It's just sometimes we have gotten in the habit of consuming those type of things like without thinking about it, where it's just like a mindless habit. Like, this is a good snack, so I'm going to snack on macadamia nuts or something, and you're not even thinking about it. Or, hey, this is a healthy fat, so I'm going to go ahead and eat an entire avocado. That is an incredibly healthy fat. But again, if we're talking about like, how would that add up if you did quadruple the serving of fat at every meal, it adds up to quite a bit of calories. So I wanted to share just sort of the concept behind when we're building a Fitme plate, utilizing that serving of fat as kind of a guideline. You're adding a serving of fat because there's probably going to be some fat included in your protein source. So we're adding a serving, and then we're limiting like the processed junk, the places where these like, hidden fats are throughout the day. And it's not because fat is bad. So that myth, you can just push out of your mind. So I want to break this piece down and then we'll be done with the science part, because I just feel like this is such valuable info. 4 types of fats. This is going to be like real quick summary. We have 4 types of fats. Mono and poly unsaturated fats. Those are the healthy ones. The ones that like the flaxseed oil, the fish, the olive oil, all of those kinds. Those are, our body really likes that kind of fat. Then we've got saturated fat. Saturated fat kind of falls in 2 categories. The stuff that comes from whole foods, pretty good for us. Animal products, even though saturated fat got a bad rap for a long time, studies have actually shown that it's not saturated fat that contributes to heart disease. They thought it was for a long time. It's not dietary saturated fat that does that. So from whole foods, saturated fat can be an excellent source of fat for your body. But saturated fat from more like processed foods and fast foods, we obviously know those aren't great for us. And then the big guy, the big bad guy, trans fats, the hydrogenated oils, guys. These are the ones that cause inflammation. They can cause a whole bunch of health problems, heart disease, all of that. And trans fats, the reason that they're in everything is because trans fats are super stable when they're heated. So the fast food industry and the baking industry use a lot of these hydrogenated oils to fry things, to cook things, because they can reuse them. They can heat them and then they can bring them back down to temperature and then they can do it again, like a fryer at the restaurant or something, right? So foods like, processed foods, fast foods, certain baked goods, all of those are like the trans fats foods. I was surprised to know, I looked this up, that even 2%, like if you consume more than 2% of your calories from trans fats, that your heart disease risk goes up by over 20%. I had no idea. That's how dangerous like the trans fats are. So our bodies like certain kinds of fats. They're key for our hormones. They're key for our bodily functions, our eyes, all the things, right? Healthy fats are great for us. And we want to avoid sort of like the trans fats and those things because they're not great for us. They cause inflammation. They cause insulin resistance, all of those things. But when you flip over a label, the reason I'm telling you all this is because when you flip over a label and you just look at the grams of fat, it might be misleading. You want to read the label and see what's in there. If you are like, hey, what is, I'm adding a serving of fat to my plate or something, go ahead and look it up and just see what it is. It's good to know, right? Are you adding, butter? Or are you just slapping some, what are they, Crisco? Do anybody still cook with Crisco? I remember having it in my house growing up, but like those are very different things to add to your plate. So I wanted to share this with you today as our topic because we are kind of breaking down each of the pieces of the Fitme plate. And when we talk about adding healthy fats, we're talking about particular kinds of quality nutrition to add to our plate, and ones that we should be aware of the portion sizes because of what I told you at the beginning, because fats are delicious and they're easy to overdo it. So we should be aware. If you've never measured out a portion size of peanut butter, go ahead and measure it out one time with your eyeballs and look at it and be like, okay, that is not what I was eating when I thought I was having a serving of peanut butter. Go ahead and measure it one time and see. So as we're adding quality fats to our plates, we can know that they're really good for our bodies. They're helping us. They're making us feel full and satiated. Like we talked about, I think I've mentioned this a couple of times, but like when we take carbs and we pair them with fat and protein, like our blood sugar is more stable. They do such great things for us. And then keeping the ones that aren't so great, either to occasions, like we know that like baked goods are delicious, but we're just going to keep those to sometimes. And then keeping the ones that like aren't great for us at all, right? Ones that are like in that fast food category, the deep fried, like all of that, and just keeping that to like almost never, because it's just not great for us. So I think that's it. I always worry when I go into the science stuff or into the like nutrition science with these things that everybody's gonna be like, just tell me what to eat. But I want you to have more than that. I want you to understand how food works in your body and what the method is behind the madness, why it is think about the concept of like, when we avoid processed junk, that's one of your Fitme default dailies. We just removed a whole bunch of these like negatives without you ever having to worry about it and know the nutrition science behind it. We just made it super easy and made that a boundary. It's not what you do every day. It's what you do rarely. And instead we add healthy Fitme plates to our plate every day. And so that becomes, again, just something that we can default to, that we don't have to stress about and weigh and measure everything under the sun. We don't have to. But this is why it looks like that. And because at the end of the day, if we are trying to lose weight, and a lot of us are, at least if it's not weight, then we're trying to lose like extra body fat, where we don't like feel we're at the best body composition we want to be, then that comes from that awareness of those extras. Like, where are we getting all these extras in all day that we're not even thinking about? Grabbing a handful of trail mix, here and there, it doesn't seem like a lot, doesn't even feel like a lot, but it does add up. So your target for the week, before we open up this conversation about how to incorporate healthy fats, your target for the week is fat awareness. I want you to look at the fats that you're including on your Fitme plates. It sounds like I should be a shirt, like nutrition fat awareness, not body fat, but just like nutrition fat. Like, I want you to look at the fats that you're including on your Fitme plates. And this week, I want you to pay attention to portion sizes, just so you can learn what they are. And then you can say, hey, I actually prefer 2 tablespoons of olive oil. It's better that way. And I love this whole plate. That's fine. But I want you to have awareness around it. And then if you are consuming anything from a package, I want you to flip that package over and specifically look at the fats. I want you to read what's in there. I want you to pay attention to the serving size and just like mental note. I'm not saying you can't have it. I just want you to look at it and say, okay, like, all right, I had no idea this was in there. Or like, awesome, this is actually way better for me than I thought. I can incorporate this more. But that's your target. The fats you're adding to your plate, I want awareness around them. The fats that you are consuming through package or something like that, you're going to flip over those labels and take a look at them and see. So now we get to talk about it. So we can either talk questions or we can talk about ways to incorporate healthy fats, and I can give you some examples.
I need examples.
Okay. So these are the ones that I personally like to incorporate in my day. Like I like to cook with coconut oil. And I like to cook with avocado oil. Those are two healthy fats that I just keep in my pantry. In particular, avocado oil is a good one for cooking because it has a higher smoke point, which means it stays awesome. Yeah, it stays healthy under heavy heat because fat can change under heavy heat. So I really like avocado oil and I really like coconut oil. Olive oil is great too. I just wouldn't scorch it. Those are good cooking fats. I like Kerrygold butter also. Kerrygold butter is to me a really quality, healthy fat. And I use that like as an addition to my starches, to my vegetables. And I just measure out a tablespoon and add it. Anybody else have some other examples of healthy fats they like to incorporate in their food?
When I roast my veggies in the oven, I drizzle it with olive oil before I roast because it kind of gives them like a nice crispiness to it. So olive oil and butter are my go-to cooking fats.
Yum. Pretty much all the fats are yum. Eggs are a great source. You're not adding fat, but egg yolks are actually an excellent source of fats. They contain nutrition that you can almost not get anywhere else, like choline and certain vitamins. So eggs are excellent. I know for a long time we're like, oh, I'm not supposed to eat the whole egg. Oh God, all the great nutrition is in the yolk. That's also where the fat is. And so oftentimes I'll do 2 eggs and then add some egg whites to them so that I'm getting extra protein, but I'm still keeping the nutrition from the fat source. What other healthy fats do you guys like? I can go on for days, but I want to hear from you all.
Hey, Christy.
Yes.
Can you talk about nuts as fats, like cashews and macadamias?
Yeah, so they are a good fat source, but I say but because there have been nutrition studies that show that, the fats that come in fish, they say like, healthy fish fats. So those are like we want to have a balance of omega-3s and omega-6s. In our standard American diet, we end up with way too many omega-6s. So that is the only downside, is having like nuts as like a regular source of your fats, is it kind of like skews that ratio where, more fish and like the omega-3s are really important in our diet, like having them 2 to 3 times a week, fish being like an excellent source of healthy fats. So to answer your question, Brittany, I like nuts as a source of healthy fat, as long as it's not like all day, every day, and you're incorporating some other ones too. And then I highly, highly, highly recommend nuts in single serving. There are a couple things that I think are worth the money, like to pay for the individual packages, and nuts and nut butter are one of them, because they're just too delicious. I mean, you can just eat them all. And
I would just, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Brittany.
I was thinking of a recipe I did with rice, ground turkey, green beans, and I threw some cashews on there, and I seasoned it with like soy sauce and some like Asian style seasonings. And that's what made me think of it, was using that as a fat source. But I just wanted to check out.
Yeah, totally. That's so good. Cashews actually can be a dairy substitute, FYI. So I've made soups in my Vitamix where I'll throw in like tomatoes, celery, carrots. It's basically like a tomato-based soup, and instead of dairy, I'll throw in a 1/4 cup of cashews, and you pulverize it in the Vitamix, and it makes it creamy like you had milk in it, except it's cashews.
Interesting.
And that's such a good soup, by the way.
Hey, Christy,
Yeah.
what about, are nuts and seeds both the same as far as omega-3s and omega-6s?
They aren't. Not all, like some seeds are mono unsaturated and some seeds are poly. So I think I would just include like a mixture if you're going to use seeds in your, but they're not quite the same as nuts.
I like sunflower seeds, and I just recently looked at the label and it said 17 grams of fat per quarter cup serving of sunflower seeds. And there's only 2 grams of saturated fat in that
Yeah.
out of that 17 grams.
Seeds are generally like an excellent sort, a really good choice. Like, and you can use them to like make your yogurt crunchy or add them to different, I add them to my oatmeal. Like you can put seeds in a bunch of things and there's good fiber, like in flax and all that good stuff. So totally like it. Good one, Kristen.
Thanks.
There's also, this one's maybe obvious, but if it's not, then there's really great fat sources from animal products too, right? So like obviously there's fat in dairy, there's fat in meats, there's fat in, all of those animal categories. So that's where, paying attention to the source matters because, that's, you're eating the fat. And so if that is high, get the high quality dairy or high quality meat. But there's fat in there too. Avocado can be a great source of fat to add to your plate. Some of like the hummus, those kind of things tend to have a lot of fat in them. Those are great too. And so I will repost one of our like grocery essentials lists because it lists a bunch of fat sources. So I'll repost that and that way you guys can take a look. But your target for this week.
Christy,
Yeah.
I have one question.
Sure.
For the fat. Is this for people who are needing extra fat? Because I have no problem getting fat. That's why I am thick. So I don't know why I'm adding extra fat. I'm gonna put some cheese on there, right? I'm a little confused.
That's a good question. So fat doesn't have anything to do with gaining body fat outside of the calories. So our bodies need a certain percentage of fat in our diets. It's one of the mandatory macronutrients. You can actually live without carbs. You cannot live without fat, eating fat, nutritional fat. You cannot live without it. You must have it. So I guess Natika, I'm thinking about it in terms of like building a Fitme plate and that being the place where we want to deliberately include fat in our diet. And so the healthy fats, we're making sure we get them, we're adding them, we're paying attention to the serving size because you can put, if you're not snacking, you can put, a solid 2 servings of fat on your plate, each plate, and still be kind of under that target that I was talking about. That sort of like estimated range of where you want to fall. So if you find that you're snacking on a lot of like snack stuff all day, adding fat to your healthy plate probably isn't going to help you lose weight. But I would suggest that instead of not adding it to your plate, that you limit it from those other places. But I think, Natika, you had a really good question because is that kind of what you meant, that like adding nutritional fat would make it harder to lose weight?
I'm thinking. But yes, you did. I got you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's such a good question. Did I explain it in a way that makes sense? Okay.
Yep, and I'm not a big snacker, so it works for me.
Yeah, you get to put it on your plate then, because that's the right amount. It is more of just that it is easy to consume. Fats are delicious. They are hidden in a lot of the like processed stuff, the baked goods, all of that. And so we end up getting this like really big, heavy dose of calories from more of like the processed foods, the baked stuff, the like standard American diet. Whereas added fats that we're adding in, like we're talking about nuts and seeds and like whole animal products and olive oil and coconut oil and avocado and all of these really great sources of fats are really, and fish are really important to have in our nutrition. It keeps us healthy. And so I wanted to go into this because I feel like it is confusing and we should kind of know the difference. And so your target is awareness around it. I want you to read all your labels this week, looking specifically at the fat. I want you to like pay attention to your portion sizes. And if you have questions, reach out to your coach and they can like answer it more in detail. And I'll do maybe I'll do an extra training in the Facebook group this week on this and add some more stuff, like lists of stuff. Coconut butter is a good one. Some people put things in the chat: avocado, nut butter, cheese, hummus, chia seeds, flax. Yep, we hit those. Yeah, great. So good. And then Jen, your last question before we sign off, how much healthy fat should we have in a day? It depends, but like the very first thing that I shared was approximately 30% of your total calories. So if you are at 2,000 calories, that's about 65 grams of fat total. If you're less than that, then that would be less. And if you need help with that too, your coach can help you figure that out. If you're like, I just want the awareness and I want to track to see, we can totally help you figure that out. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. It's great seeing your faces. Awesome questions. If you have any more, post them up in the Facebook group or chat with your coach. And I will see you guys later this week. Bye.